Have you ever prayed the same prayer over and over again and heard nothing in return? You asked God to heal the relationship. He stayed silent. You asked Him to open a door. Nothing happened. You begged Him to take away the pain, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, and yet the silence remained. And somewhere deep inside, a question began to grow. God, are you still there? If you've ever felt that way, this message is for you. There was a young woman named Sarah living in Texas. Every Sunday, she sat in the third row of her church with a smile on her face. People admired her faith. They saw her volunteering, singing during worship, and encouraging others. But no one knew what happened when she got home. 3 years earlier, Sarah had lost her husband in a car accident. Since then, life had become a series of unanswered prayers. She prayed for peace but woke up crying. She prayed for strength but felt exhausted. She prayed for a sign from God, but heaven seemed quiet. One rainy evening, after another difficult day, she sat in her car outside a grocery store and whispered, God, I don't need a miracle anymore. I just need to know you haven't forgotten me. Then she started crying. Have you ever had a moment like that? The truth is, some of the strongest believers in the Bible experienced God's silence. David wrote, How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever? Job lost everything and heard nothing for chapter after chapter. Even Jesus, hanging on the cross, cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Silence is not proof of God's absence. Sometimes, silence is where faith grows the deepest roots. Think about a seed. Before it becomes a tree, it spends months hidden underground. Nobody applauds it. Nobody sees its progress. Yet beneath the surface, something extraordinary is happening. Perhaps that's where you are today. You don't feel growth. You don't see answers. You don't understand the delay. But God is still working beneath the surface. Few weeks after that rainy evening, Sarah found an old Bible her husband had given her years before. Inside was a handwritten note she had never noticed. He said, "If life ever becomes too heavy, remember this. God's silence has never meant God's absence." She stared at those words in disbelief. That moment, she realized something. God hadn't abandoned her during those 3 years. He had carried her through every lonely night, every unanswered prayer, and every morning she didn't think she could face. Sometimes we ask, God, why aren't you speaking? But perhaps God is asking us, will you trust me even when I'm quiet? Faith isn't believing when everything makes sense. Faith is choosing to trust when nothing does. Maybe you're waiting for healing. Maybe you're waiting for a job. Maybe you're waiting for your child to come back to God. Maybe you're simply waiting to feel His presence again. Don't give up. The chapter you're living in is not the end of your story. Remember Lazarus? Jesus arrived 4 days late, but He was never too late. Remember Joseph? He spent years in prison before stepping into his purpose. Remember Noah? He built an ark before there was even a cloud in the sky. God has always worked in seasons that people didn't understand. And He hasn't changed. Tonight, before you close your eyes, I want you to do something. Place your hand over your heart and say these words, God, I don't understand this season, but I trust you. Even in the silence, I believe you are working. Give me strength to keep walking by faith and not by sight. Amen. One day, you'll look back at this season and realize it wasn't the moment God left you, it was the moment He was preparing you. Because sometimes, God's greatest work happens in the silence. And if you're listening to this right now, perhaps that's not a coincidence. Perhaps God wanted to remind you of one simple truth: He has never stopped listening. And He has never stopped loving you.
Oh